Hydropower has been lighting up our homes and driving industries for over a century. Indeed, we've been using water wheels for far longer. But as the world races toward a renewable energy future, will this old powerhouse remain at the forefront of renewable energy, or are we witnessing a turning of the tide? Welcome to another episode of Science and Futurism with Isaac Arthur. I am your aforementioned host, Isaac Arthur, and today we'll continue our exploration of emerging energy technologies by focusing on hydroelectric power and its future. In recent years, we've explored solar power, from terrestrial installations to space-based systems. We've looked at nuclear fission and innovations with small modular reactors and thorium, and explored the status of nuclear fusion. We've even delved into ultra-advanced theoretical power options like zero-point energy, vacuum energy, and tapping into black holes. We've looked at batteries and other portable power options, moving power with superconductors, and even getting off the grid entirely. As usual, our goal is to explore the pros and cons of each energy solution and discuss its future potential, not advocate any particular option. Today, we'll dive into the past, present, and future of hydroelectric power, exploring its pivotal role in the transition to sustainable energy. We'll examine the challenges it faces, from environmental concerns to aging infrastructure, and highlight cutting-edge innovations that aim to make it more efficient, adaptable, and eco-friendly. Alongside this, we'll take a closer look at how hydroelectricity compares to other major renewable energy sources, such as solar, wind, and geothermal. While this comparison is not the primary focus, it will serve as a major subtopic, helping us understand hydro's unique strengths, limitations, and how it fits in the broader renewable energy mix. And while our primary focus is on near-term developments of the next few decades, it wouldn't be Science and Futurism with Isaac Arthur if we didn't also leap further ahead to consider hydroelectric power's long-term potential, including off-world applications. In many ways, there's nothing new about the idea of using water to generate power or perform work. Just as humanity has long harnessed the wind and sunlight, we've also turned to rivers, tides, and other moving bodies of water to assist with labor and fuel our economies for millennia, even before the dawn of civilization. Early societies built water wheels to grind grain, drive sawmills, and power textile production. These devices marked the beginning of humanity's understanding of water as a source of mechanical energy. Over time, this technology evolved. By the Industrial Revolution, water power was a critical force behind factory systems and early industrialization. It remains one of the most effective ways of generating power, but it suffers from being limited to specific locations, where a fast-running river or strong tide was reliably at, and it could vary by day and season a lot. Plus, you can't add more generators, thus we can see lots of coal and oil-powered mechanisms. Fast forward to the 20th century, and hydroelectric dams emerged as engineering marvels, generating electricity on a massive scale and fueling the rapid expansion of urbanization and infrastructure. But while combustion engines and power plants improved, so did our ability to harness water power more efficiently. Today, hydroelectric power remains one of the largest sources of renewable energy, yet it faces new challenges and opportunities as we strive to create a sustainable energy future. Its story, like the rivers it depends on, is ever-flowing and constantly adapting to the needs at the time. So grab a drink and a snack, give those like and subscribe buttons a smack, and let's dive deeper into how hydroelectric power has evolved and where it may be headed in the decades and centuries to come. Now, in some regards, virtually all power is hydropower, as most of our power generation is done by using boiling water to make steam that turns turbines. This is the case for nuclear fission and coal and oil and anything else using fire to heat water to make power. Water is a great coolant and a great working fluid, and the latter means a fluid that is doing work for us. A working fluid is essentially any substance used to transfer energy in a system, such as steam driving turbines and power plants. It is typically involved in thermodynamic cycles, such as those in engines, refrigerators, or power plants, where it undergoes phase changes, e.g. liquid to gas, or remains in a single phase while experiencing pressure, temperature, and volume changes. The working fluid acts as a medium to convert energy from one form to another, such as thermal to mechanical energy. In most hydroelectric plants, water flows down a dam, converting gravitational energy into mechanical energy to spin turbines connected to a dynamo, generating electricity. While this is our main focus today, water plays a role in nearly all forms of power production. Even in solar energy systems, water can be used to heat fluids or simply to clean solar panels, as it's an excellent solvent. Additionally, surplus electricity can be used to split water into hydrogen and oxygen, providing fuel for combustion or fuel cells. The idea of using excess electricity to store energy in water presents an interesting reversal of the main challenge in harnessing water as a power source. Almost all energy on this planet originates from the sun, and much of it is absorbed by the oceans and atmosphere. However, only a small fraction of that energy is easily accessible for hydroelectric or wind power. Not many people ask how much energy is stored in a cloud, but the sun transfers enormous amounts of energy into water to evaporate it and lift it a mile into the sky. Virtually all that energy is converted into heat when the water falls back to Earth, as raindrops collide with the air. Raindrops have a relatively low terminal velocity, typically ranging from 2 to 9 meters per second, 4.5 to 20 miles per hour, depending on their size. Earth receives about 500 trillion liters of rainfall annually, and at that range of speeds, the impact releases a few exajoules of energy per year, roughly the equivalent to the energy contained in a billion barrels of oil. While this may sound impressive, it's not particularly significant when compared to humanity's energy needs. You might think that tapping into the energy of every raindrop would be a viable way to generate power, but as we just noted, even if it were possible, it wouldn't provide much. However, water that falls on land at higher altitudes offers a much more promising energy source, as it slowly drains into rivers and flows downhill. Terminal velocity, whether in air or within its surroundings, is something of a limitation for harnessing energy, as even the high speed of 9 meters per second corresponds to just 1 second of fall time and a mere 4 meters, 13 feet of fall distance. Water flowing down a big height together, like a fast river or a straight drop down a shaft, can be a lot faster, as much as 30 meters per second or 70 miles per hour at the bottom of the Niagara waterfall, and dams often have speed not much short of this at their own bottom. Water on some low gravity and cold, low air pressure planet like Mars might be during early terraforming might allow much higher speeds, as awesomely tall mountains and deep canyons might make hydroelectric useful on a partially terraformed green Mars. To capture meaningful amounts of energy, we often rely on larger height differences and steady flows of rivers to convert potential energy into useful work. However, it's also conceivable to harness rainwater from buildings for small-scale power generation. Just as rain barrels are used to collect water for drinking or irrigation, small hydroelectric generators could be installed at the base of downspouts to generate power. While a single rooftop might not produce much energy, larger systems on skyscrapers or in mountainous regions could make microhydro more viable. For example, a typical roof might collect around 100,000 liters of rainfall annually, which would generate only a few million joules of energy, roughly 1/10 the energy in a gallon of gasoline. While this isn't particularly significant for individual homes, taller buildings like skyscrapers could harness rainwater to produce hundreds of times that amount. With affordable low-maintenance turbines installed in drainage systems, these systems could become practical solutions for urban areas, making better use of an otherwise untapped resource. Although microhydro at this scale is still not overly impressive, it could play a more significant role if the equipment becomes easier to manufacture, install, and connect. Water has long been one of humanity's greatest sources of power, both literally and metaphorically. That central role permeates everything about our civilizations, even expressions like streams of consciousness or the flow of thoughts and data. But could a civilization exist where intelligence still flows, without a single conscious mind directing it? Much like hydroelectric power channels the energy of moving water without conscious intervention, what if a civilization could function indefinitely without self-aware minds? In my latest exclusive episode, Post-Conscious Civilizations Evolving Beyond Human Awareness, we explore what happens when intelligence no longer requires sentience, when entire societies operate without a single truly aware being. Could we one day create such a world? Or worse, what if we were already living in one? That's out now on Nebula, the largest creator-owned streaming platform, where every SFIA episode airs early and ad-free, along with our monthly Nebula exclusive episodes, extended editions, and tons of exclusive content from other great creators like Real Engineering, Joe Scott, and the Science Asylum. And for new Nebula subscribers, you can get access to guest passes. No personal information is required, no card info. Share Nebula with friends and family. Sign up now to get 40% off with my link, just $36 a year, at go.nebula.tv/IsaacArthur, and start exploring the strangest possibilities of our future. For off-grid applications such as powering a cabin or shed far from conventional wiring, Microhydro offers unique advantages. Batteries don't store energy efficiently over long periods, and solar panels are dependent on daylight and require regular maintenance. In contrast, hydro systems can store water for either continuous stable energy, like large-scale hydroelectric dams, or for short-term use. For example, rainwater collected from a roof could be stored in an elevated tank and released through a turbine as needed, offering a reliable energy source. Great for a building you might only be visiting for an hour a month but want lots of power at while there. You could also bypass the need for batteries entirely by combining solar and hydro in a hybrid system. A solar-powered pump could slowly transfer water from a well or pool to an elevated tank on sunny days. The stored water could then be released through a turbine at any time, providing a stable short-term power supply regardless of the time of day or weather conditions. This combination highlights the flexibility and potential of Microhydro, especially in innovative off-grid setups. However, this also underscores the challenge of hydroelectric power in general. Large-scale hydro systems depend on vast drainage basins to supply water, and require construction of artificial lakes to stabilize that supply. Advances in technology don't offer many ways to significantly improve these systems, as they are already highly efficient. Additionally, most of the prime sites for large dams are either already in use or unsuitable due to the significant disruption they cause to local landscapes, such as displacing communities or damaging ecosystems. This is one reason why Microhydro is so appealing. While it can't replace the output of large-scale dams, improvements in Microhydro systems could open up many opportunities for smaller, more flexible power generation. These systems could be installed on virtually any river or stream without the need for large infrastructure, making them an attractive option for localized energy production. And much as hydroelectric makes a great baseload power generation system at the large scale, providing a steady power supply over a long time period rather than fluctuating throughout the day, Microhydro could do the same to off-grid homes and smaller communities. An exception to the limited expansion of hydroelectricity is tidal power generation, which takes advantage of the predictable gravitational interactions between the Earth, Moon, and Sun. Tidal power harnesses the rise and fall of ocean tides to generate electricity, making it a reliable, renewable energy source. One common approach is tidal barrages. These are dam-like structures built across estuaries or bays. As the tide rises, water flows into a reservoir behind the barrage, and as the tide falls, the stored water is released through turbines to generate electricity. While effective, tidal barrages require significant differences between high and low tides, known as a tidal range, to operate efficiently. They can also be expensive to construct and may disrupt local marine ecosystems. Though the barrage may serve a dual purpose, and for instance you might do a stretch of land wide enough for a road and a house on each side to serve as the barrage, which now also count as high-value coastal real estate. More modestly, it could also be piers or docks for ships. A more flexible option is tidal stream generators, which function similarly to underwater wind turbines. These devices are placed directly in fast-moving tidal currents, capturing the kinetic energy of the water as it flows past. Tidal stream systems are less invasive than barrages as they don't require large dams or reservoirs. They are particularly suited to areas with strong, consistent tidal flows, such as narrow straits or coastal regions with significant current speeds. Despite their limitations, tidal power systems represent an exciting frontier in renewable energy. Improvements in turbine efficiency and cost-effectiveness could dramatically increase their viability, especially in regions with extensive coastlines. Dynamic tidal power (DTP) systems represent an innovative and largely theoretical approach to harnessing tidal energy. Unlike tidal barrages or stream generators, which rely on natural features like estuaries or fast-moving tidal currents, DTP involves constructing long, dam-like structures perpendicular to the coastline, running out straight into the sea. These structures create artificial pressure differences between tidal waves, allowing them to capture energy from both the tidal range, the height difference between the high and low tide, and the tidal currents, the horizontal movement of the water caused by tides. The concept behind DTP is to leverage the interactions of tides along vast stretches of coastline, A dynamic tidal dam could extend several kilometers into the ocean, typically in shallow coastal areas. As tides shift, water levels on either side of the dam differ, creating a pressure gradient that drives water through the turbines embedded within the structure. This dual approach enables DTP systems to generate electricity even in regions where tidal range or currents alone may not provide sufficient energy for other tidal power technologies. One of the key advantages of DTP is scalability. These systems could potentially harness energy from long stretches of coastline, making them particularly attractive for countries with extensive shallow coastal areas, such as China or the Netherlands. In these regions, tidal energy could supplement or even replace other renewable sources. Furthermore, because DTP systems are not restricted to narrow estuaries or bays like traditional tidal barrages, they can be implemented in a much broader range of locations. Indeed, we might be able to build into deeper coastal areas with buoyant sections, or supplement costs by using them in deeper areas for sea farming or sea solar where there's a lot of sunlight but not much nutrient. And the structure could allow nutrient close to the surface where farming or extended ecologies could then bloom. We discussed this more in our marine habitats and artificial islands episode. But short form, you could potentially feed and power hundreds of millions of households by building out deep and taking advantage of the untapped oceanic desert that is the deep sea. However, DTP faces significant engineering and financial challenges. Building large, robust structures in the open ocean requires vast amounts of materials and advanced engineering to withstand strong tidal forces, waves, and storms. Additionally, the environmental impact of such systems remains largely unknown. DTP could potentially alter coastal ecosystems, disrupt marine habitats, and change sediment flow patterns, leading to unforeseen consequences that would need careful mitigation. Again, we may even do this intentionally to boost overall oceanic biomass. Despite these obstacles, dynamic tidal power holds great promise as a future solution for large-scale tidal energy generation. Advancements in construction techniques, materials, and environmental management strategies could make DTP a viable option for coastal nations seeking to diversify their renewable energy portfolios. If successfully implemented, it could transform the way we think about tidal energy, turning entire coastlines into vast power-generating assets. I also like DTP for its potential in tandem with oceanic farming. As mentioned, these structures could support coral reefs or other marine ecosystems, enhancing local biomass and biodiversity while generating power. It's a reminder that while hydroelectric power is renewable and does not rely on rare materials for energy generation, it can still be ecologically disruptive. Balancing energy production with environmental preservation will always be a challenge. Tidal power remains a niche form of renewable energy, but with improvements in turbine efficiency, cost management, and environmental mitigation, it could become a much more significant part of our energy mix, particularly for coastal regions with strong tidal activity. The key will be finding ways to make these systems both economically and ecologically viable on a large scale. So too, it helps if it doesn't visually mar the landscape, creating a NIMBY effect, not in my backyard. Which is one reason I think using them as the base beneath newly created coastal real estate might help. When we think about hydroelectric power, we usually picture rivers, dams, or coastal systems like tidal power, but there's another, more futuristic frontier: deep-sea hydroelectric power. This concept explores generating energy far from coastlines, deep underwater, by harnessing the unique characteristics of the ocean environment. While much of this remains theoretical, there are several intriguing possibilities. One promising idea is the use of ocean current turbines, which could tap into the immense steady energy of deep ocean currents. These powerful underwater highways, such as the Gulf Stream off the east coast of the United States or the Kuroshio Current near Japan, flow with consistent force year-round. Unlike surface currents that are influenced by wind and weather, deep-sea currents are driven by global thermohaline circulation, differences in temperature and salinity, making them highly predictable and reliable. A potential baseload power supply. By deploying large turbines, similar to wind turbines but optimized for underwater use, we could generate electricity as water flows through them. The potential energy output of ocean current turbines is immense. For example, the Gulf Stream alone carries enough energy to theoretically meet the electricity needs of entire regions, if harnessed efficiently. Moreover, the high density of water compared to air means that even slow-moving ocean currents can generate significant power, as water has over 800 times the density of air. This makes ocean current turbines far more compact and potentially more efficient than wind turbines of comparable size. However, the challenges of implementing this technology are substantial. The turbines must be constructed from materials capable of withstanding immense water pressure, corrosive saltwater environments, and the mechanical wear caused by continuous operation in such harsh conditions. Advanced coatings and corrosion-resistant materials, along with innovative designs, are critical to overcoming these hurdles. Turbine placement must also be carefully planned to minimize disruption to marine ecosystems and avoid hazards to marine life, such as fish or migrating species like whales. Incorporating safety features such as slow-moving blades or sonar detection systems could help mitigate these impacts, without suffering much performance decrease or cost increase. Additionally, the logistics of transmitting the generated electricity back to shore present another layer of complexity. Undersea cables capable of carrying high-voltage power over long distances are essential, but they are expensive and difficult to maintain at present. An alternative approach could involve floating platforms that store and convert the energy before relaying it to the grid. These platforms could also serve as hubs for other oceanic activities, such as desalination plants, marine research stations, or even aquaculture operations, creating a multi-use system that maximizes the utility of these installations. Multi-purpose systems often suffer from not being as good at its job as a dedicated device is, but can often create multiple strong revenue sources and economic diversification that can help against market fluctuations, which is part of why I keep suggesting them. Just on general principle, it's always nice to get two birds with one stone, too. Ocean current turbines represent a significant opportunity for renewable energy, particularly for coastal nations with access to strong, steady currents. With advancements in material science, turbine efficiency, and undersea infrastructure, they could become a vital component of our renewable energy mix, offering a reliable and constant power source to complement intermittent renewables like solar and wind. Another possibility is pressure gradient systems, which take advantage of the massive pressure differences found in the deep ocean. These systems could involve pumping water between high-pressure depths and low-pressure areas closer to the surface. Turbines would then generate electricity as the water flows between these zones. This concept leverages the deep ocean as a natural pressure reservoir, functioning much like a conventional dam, but on a vastly different scale. While still speculative, such systems could provide a reliable energy source for future oceanic infrastructure or underwater habitats. Deep-sea hydroelectric power could also play a role in supporting remote oceanic research stations, underwater mining operations, or even future ocean colonies. With further advancement in technology, we may see these concepts evolve from theoretical ideas to practical solutions for harnessing renewable energy in some of the most challenging environments on Earth. Hydroelectric power has been a cornerstone of energy production for centuries, and while it may not have the same explosive growth potential as solar or wind energy, its reliability and versatility makes it an indispensable part of our renewable energy future. Large-scale hydroelectric systems have reached their peak efficiency and face limitations in terms of expansion, but the potential for innovations in microhydro, tidal power, and even deep-sea hydroelectricity offers exciting opportunities for growth and diversification. As we look beyond Earth, hydroelectric power might also have a future on other worlds. While traditional hydropower relies on the presence of liquid water and gravity, the principles behind it could be adapted to a variety of extraterrestrial environments. One intriguing possibility lies in the subsurface oceans of icy moons, such as Europa, Ganymede, and Enceladus. These moons, which orbit Jupiter and Saturn, are believed to have vast oceans of liquid water beneath their icy crusts, kept warm by tidal forces from their parent planets. If future colonists could drill through the ice to access these oceans, they might install turbines to harness underwater currents driven by these tidal forces. These systems could provide energy for habitats or research stations, particularly as the tidal forces that warm these oceans create predictable and powerful flows. On Titan, Saturn's largest moon, hydroelectricity could take on an entirely different form. Titan is home to rivers, lakes, and seas, not of water but of liquid methane and ethane. These hydrocarbons flow across its surface under the moon's thick atmosphere. In theory, turbines could be placed in these methane rivers to generate power, similar to how hydropower works here on Earth. Titan's lower gravity and dense atmosphere might even make it easier to construct and maintain such systems. The challenge, of course, would be designing turbines and infrastructure that can operate in the extreme cold and chemically reactive environment of Titan. For Mars, the potential for hydroelectric power is less obvious due to its lack of significant liquid water on the surface, at this time anyway. However, melted polar ice caps or underground aquifers could be used to create artificial reservoirs. If Martian settlements were to capture and store melted water at higher elevations, they could release it downhill through turbines to generate power. They have some tall mountains and thin air there after all. As I mentioned earlier, that would allow higher speeds, and even in low gravity it doesn't take long to accelerate to those speeds. Such systems might supplement solar panels during the long dust storms that block the already weak sunlight for weeks at a time. Even more exotic applications could arise on super-Earth exoplanets or other celestial bodies with thicker atmospheres and higher gravity. These conditions could create extreme rainfall or continuous high-pressure flows that might support hydroelectric-like systems. In environments where water is scarce, alternative working fluids like liquid nitrogen, carbon dioxide, or even helium might serve as substitutes, driving turbines in ways similar to traditional hydropower. As we continue to explore new technologies and refine existing ones, hydroelectric power will undoubtedly remain a key player in the transition to a more sustainable energy landscape. From powering homes and industries on Earth at the dawn of civilization, to one day driving energy systems on other worlds, water's ability to help us turn potential into power is truly timeless. But that's all the time we have for today. Until next time, thanks for watching, and have a great week.